And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. We are streaming this live to Twitch right now. And thanks for tuning in. Space, the final meteorological frontier. These are the voyages of the starship planet Earth, where we talk about observational reality instead of a bunch of BS. So we're going to start out looking at the sun, the Rosetta Stone of all cosmology, because I consider heliophysics part of cosmology. We'll explain why momentarily. Anyway, this view in 193 angstroms is showing us some diffuse coronal holes around the solar equator, a very, very large, well-defined coronal hole associated with the South Pole, and a small active region which does not look like a sunspot rising over here in the east. We've got some close-ups of that for you in a minute. First, it's next. There it is. And there's that active rising region there. The field complexity isn't particularly defined with this. And that's late last night universal time and early today, the activity. And let's look at the 304 angstroms version of the exact same area. And there you have that same region. You see some sprightly looking plasma flying around there, picked up by the helium spectra. So this view, the 304 angstrom, is looking at the UV emissions of ionized helium. And let's break down the fields for you here real quick. Here's that active region, and we're going to fade that out to the fields. And there you see the magnetic field associated with that. Could be a sunspot, could be not. We should be able to tell in a few hours whether or not that is a sunspot. And let's move on to talk about demonetization. Now, we've started a new video series because on Tuesday night, I woke up very, very early and I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed at ridiculous articles on the internet, which we refer to as sharticles. The sharticle is a special kind of article that you find on the internet that is like 1/3 complete nonsense and 2/3 actual facts. And if you don't know all the facts, then you won't realize that it's a sharticle. Now, this has not been remonetized yet. And of course, if it gets confirmed by manual review to be not suitable for ads, we will set it to private. And we have been having some issues also with publication of videos on BitChute. However, we are seeing many more videos on BitChute than on YouTube, a sure indication of shadow bans. Now, there is definitely demand for the kind of content that we put out on BitChute, and I won't get into the specifics of all that, but please follow us over there, hit subscribe, tell your friends about BitChute. There are exclusive videos, such as this one, about one of the cures to COVID-19, and about how, well, other things are going on, and we're not going to get into it. Also, check us out on Instagram, where we try to provide people with some hope and let you know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, folks. And the world is not ending. Some of us are out there making damn well sure that the world is not going to end. So don't freak out. Don't freak out. And by the way, you look like an idiot wearing that mask. Also, check us out on Facebook. We do have a page there. It's facebook.com/smAsho, as well as a group which we call Entropy Busters. And I just wanted to roll out this image here, as maybe you haven't seen it yet, the sausage party that is known as the Electric View. Now, if you've noticed, I've appeared on the Electric View more than once and basically had my ears bleed as a result of listening to the nonsense that people will say on Electric View. So let me just read my recent post. Now, entropy gets busted here. Part of the reason why we have a channel in the first place is because we are entropy busters. And so rehashed, confused pseudoscience theories, like the ridiculous idea that stars are electric, are entropy. Newsflash, stars aren't electric. Don't tell Neil Thompson that, though. He'll idiotically put you in a timeout, in other words, ban you, and try to gaslight, claiming it's your fault if you attempt to explain the actual observations and how they do not line up at all with their theories. And they're not theories, because a theory needs to have already had some actual testing done on it to back up the observations. These aren't theories. These are taking laboratory experiments and trying to find the phenomenon in space. And that's not science. Anyway, Neil Thompson, surrounded by sausage, does a weekly science show called The Electric View. It's sexy as you know what, and pardon the sarcasm and the English. Personally, I was banned because I refused to back down regarding the hard, homosexuality pun intentional, science of things like how magnetic fields work, the role of plasma on the surface of the sun, cosmology, which Neil and his ossified thoughts band of sausage links do not understand in the slightest. Some people will not listen to reason and will ignore all the observational evidence. These people are not doing science, they're doing dogma. The universe is not electric, stars are not electric, although you might say they're electronic, at least on the surface, and actually be accurate. Birkeland currents are not transferring electric current all over the universe. If they were, we'd see all sorts of things like cosmic chemical spectral signatures, but we don't. Electric universe is debunked constantly to the point that it's such low-hanging fruit it's not even worth debunking, like flat earth theory. Don't believe the hype surrounding this nonsense. We do real science. We don't sit around rehashing old, outdated, long-debunked laboratory results that do not equate in any way to observed reality regarding cosmology. Ask Eugene Bagashoff. Eugene agrees. Anyway, please share this original pro meme about Neil's little sausage party. And this has brought me to the cosmology segment. Anyway, that's where we're located in the galaxy. I don't know if you're aware. Let's talk about yet another thing that debunks the electric universe theory, which, again, is not a theory. It's not even a hypothesis. It's backed up by fantasies. Now, one of the ways that we debunk this regularly is citing the fact that we see no Markland convection around stellar atmospheres, a sure indication that there are not indeed Birkeland currents connecting everything in the universe, and a total misunderstanding of what electricity is, what electric current is versus an electric field, and I'm not going to get into it, but globular cluster 6652 is not getting into it either because of the metallicity. Now, globular clusters are used for all sorts of things in the realm of astronomy. A globular cluster is like a little miniature galaxy inside the galaxy that's orbiting the galactic core. This one in particular is called NGC 6652, and I'm not going to get into the age of stars or any of that stuff because this is the daily space weather and we just put a little infusion of cosmology in the daily space weather. The point is, we don't see certain features that would have to be there if stars were electric. So, now, this study determined the chemical abundances of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, sodium, magnesium, calcium, titanium, chromium, and manganese. These are what we call metals. In the world of cosmology, everything besides hydrogen and helium are considered metals, and that has to do with the generational nature of stars. Standard mainstream astronomy believes that there are two different types of stars. There are a first-generation star and a second-generation star. I'm not going to get all into that. Maybe we'll save that for a cosmology segment video. But the point is, stars are believed to create the heavy elements in their interiors. Now, we see zero observational evidence of a nuclear fusion dynamo inside of the sun or in any star. And so this image that I'm showing you here is, well, it's from a charticle. Now, I believe, and not everybody agrees with me on this, that the Sapphire Project has created something similar to a stellar atmosphere. Nothing like a star in a jar. It lacks all kinds of features that a star needs to have in order to be a star. However, I believe Sapphire did indeed create something similar to the corona, and I believe they did indeed cause transmutation of elements. If that's the case, that represents a new tool in the cosmic toolbox, because if stars are able to create heavy elements in their atmospheres, then why do we need them in order for cosmology to create heavy elements in their cores? Here's the globular cluster NGC 6652. A nice close-up. It's very high res. And I think we may have to include that one in the thumbnail. You zoom out a little bit. And there is a nice image of globular cluster 6652. And I hope you enjoyed today's cosmology segment. Also, check us out on other social media, such as minds.com, where we advertise the Sharticle. Now, Minds.com is the future of social media, as you won't get shadow banned and throttled and all that nonsense. Also, big tech won't attempt to censor your coverage about cures to COVID-19 and things like that. So hey, check it out. Minds, it's the future of social media, unlike Facebook, which is a fossil of dying social media. Let's look at some more images of the sun. Here she is at 132 angstroms. And now's the time to leave comments directly for the sun. Perhaps we'll even read them in tomorrow's daily space weather video. Leave a comment if you think the sun's conscious, and leave another comment if you've got a comment specifically for the sun. Hey, sun, thanks for not murdering us today. And let's move on. KP index is currently at 1, having just updated. And check it out, we see a Lyrid exploding in the atmosphere there. Now that cloud of dust there could be seen for about 20 minutes, and this is available at spaceweather.com. Photographed by Rodney Muller, so well done, Rodney Muller. Believed to be about 80 kilometers above Earth. I guess it's a Lyrid. So there's an interesting image, and the 10.7 centimeter radial flux still at 71, actually up to 71, having been down to 69 yesterday. So slight increase in the radial flux, no surprise there as we see an active region rising in the east. Next we'll look at the location of planets and so on. And hey, happy new moon. New moon happened at about a little before 11 o'clock last night. And there's where things will be in 1 week, as an equilateral triangle is being created between Mercury, Earth, and Jupiter, which is sure to have people scared, frightened, shocked, and thinking it's very, very spooky. Very spooky and scary, scary and spooky. OMG, OMG, a triangle in space. We're all going to die, pardon the sarcasm. Here's where stars are, and if you've got a low horizon before sunrise, you should be able to see Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. X-ray flux is totally flatlined. And if you're wondering where the data comes from, the GOES 16 attempts to measure the X-ray flux around the F2 ionosphere layer. So at or near the F2 layer of the ionosphere is where the GOES satellites are located. There's the X-ray environment there. And there's the proton environment there. Now this is photons, and this is protons. You understand the difference? Electromagnetic radiation, particles. Get it? Good. Next we're going to move on to the real-time solar wind. And pardon my blue screen. And since I don't like having a white background behind my head, I'm going to have to go and vanish. And we just saw an uptick in the density once again. So a little bit of differences coming in the solar wind there. You can see it going up and down. Particle detector looks healthy here on the Discover spacecraft. Sadly, the ACE spacecraft particle detector looks like it is busted. So not sure what the scenario is with that. I don't think she's coming back. But the BTBZ is chilling a little bit. We saw some very, very crazy readings the day before yesterday and on yesterday's daily space weather video. Current phi angle around 14 degrees. 14 degrees. Current solar wind density around 6 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed around 428 kilometers a second. And surprised that hasn't ramped down yet. But hey, what are you going to do? There's the data. So here's the data from ACE. And look at that density detector. That is not looking real. I have a feeling the ACE is busted. It is showing good data for the speed, though. And for that, we thank you. Next, we'll look at the geospace magnetosphere movies. Here's 4 hours of data courtesy University of Michigan. And if you're noticing that we're changing the format of the daily space weather video, folks, don't worry. We're producing more content, not less. We're just compartmentalizing the content more. Anyway, looking at a pretty weak magnetosphere compared to the last week or so. Weak compared to the last week. Don't be weak and understand the actual data and physics, and don't believe the nonsense. We'll be more than happy to debunk any sharticle that you've got. Any sharticle. Anyway, here are the ground geospace magnetic perturbations. coming a little closer to home here, and we're not seeing very many perturbations during this polar excursion, while we have two North Poles and a South Pole in the Indian Ocean instead of on the Antarctic continent. Here's the GOES magnetometer, which is spiky, and it's going to continue to look spiky. Spiky, spiky, spiky. And we've got the North Pole shining through finally, as you see some green magnetism here on the gong too. Now the data is 1 hour and 33 minutes old, and keep in mind it can change with absolutely no warning, which is what it did here. And we do see that active region slightly south of the solar equator, an indication that it's probably cycle 24 in nature. I haven't even looked at the polarity, really. I'm just more excited about the fact that we are approaching a heliospheric current sheet polarity boundary crossing. So right now, the whole current sheet, except for a small area, is charged up by the South Pole shown here in red, but now we've got some coming through of the North Pole. So seeing some differences headed our way, something to keep an eye on throughout the day. And if you're wondering if I'm a published poet, I am a published poet. And we don't see very many changes here in the B field, shown in blue on the line of sight field plot. Relativistic electrons have come up a little bit, as I forecasted. Here's the total electron content forecast. And this does give you some sort of an idea of what GPS errors will be like, folks. Those yellow areas where it says 36, those are probably something like, 20 meters of GPS error. And the GOES electron flux has come up off the floor a little bit. We're expecting this to make it up here into warning levels today. So don't be surprised if you see that happen. And your GPSs might start working a little worse. So keep an eye on that. And speaking of ions, here's the 6-hour movie of the ionosphere. So we're coming at you a little bit late today, and we see a highly discharged nighttime ionosphere here once again, and it's not going to stay that way. And I'm not going to get into forecasting the ionosphere on this video, or how to do it, because, hey, this is the daily space weather. If you want to know how I do what I do, well, I'm probably not going to tell you, but perhaps I will. So stay tuned for more content. Here's the latest image. And yeah, it's looking anomalously discharged at nighttime and normal on the daytime side. Anyway, look, I'm back, and we're looking at windy.com, and we're looking at the pressure maps. So let's bring this back to the current time, and we'll advance it via the GFS forecast. By the way, windy.com has a great mobile app as well. It's free. Download it to your smartphone if you like. I'm not paid to say it. I'm just paid to give you real information and debunk all the BS that you'll find on the internet. Every sharticle. Hey, watch out, sharticles. I'm coming for you, sharticles. I'm coming for you. Next, we'll look at earthquakes, and we see an extremely deep earthquake coming in the past 24 near Fiji. We'll get to it in a minute. And we're just going to scroll up the list. We see nothing over a 6 magnitude. Nothing even at a 6 magnitude, for that matter. So no major quakes over the past 24. Here's an Aleutian deep quake. That one coming in at 1713 Universal Time at a depth of 114 kilometers and a 3.9 magnitude. Here's a very deep quake in Japan. And that one came in about an hour and a half later, 416 kilometers at a 4.4 magnitude. And we're just going to keep scrolling here. We don't want this section to be too long, or the video to be too long for that matter. And here's a very, very deep quake near Fiji, 649 kilometers depth at a 4.4 magnitude. That would be over a 6 if that happened at the surface. Here's a deep quake in Indonesia. It's a 4.3 magnitude at 100 kilometers. And let's move on to talk about Klyuchevskoy. Some incandescent lava flows there on one of the flanks of Klyuchevskoy. Let's go down the list of the past 24. Klyuchevskoy is producing a 20,000-foot plume. Aso is producing a 5,000-foot plume. Kuchinarabu-jima, 3,000-foot ash plume there. Flight level 13,000 at Semaru. Tokono, flight level 7,000. Popocatépetl, flight level 20,000. Sangay, flight level 20,000, as both explode. Revenador, no volcanic ash observed and imaged. Please don't take that as a cue to pole vault the caldera. And Sabancaya exploding, producing a 24,000-foot plume. Please do not... Hey, all right, I'm feeling surrounded. And by the way, you look like a complete COVIDiot with that mask on. So I don't know what to tell you besides later. Thanks, son. I'll talk to you soon. Next, we're looking at the jet streams. And here's the eastern world. And there is going to be some cold temperatures coming down this way. Check it out. That is some straight up Arctic air coming from the geographic North Pole. And coming right down into China, where they don't need the cold air. What they need is the hot air and sunlight to cure them with heat and UV light of things like COVID-19. I don't know if you're aware. Heat and UV light kills COVID-19. COVID-19 is not even worthy of being your enemy, folks. Have you ever had somebody who thinks that you're their enemy, but since they're not worthy of being your enemy, you're their enemy, but they're not yours because they're too pathetic to fight? Well, story of my life, folks. Story of my life. Check out the doubled up jet streams in both hemispheres. Here's the Western world's jet streams. And we got extreme meridional jet stream flow. Once again, you're going to hear articles about how OMG, Greenland is melting because there's warm air being injected. Oh, no! While at the same time, northwestern Africa will be concerned about freezing as they're getting very cold temperatures there. And let's move on to water vapor maps. Here's Africa and Europe. Here's me vanishing. Here's Oceania and the Far East. Here's a lightning map, courtesy of lightningmaps.org. I'm not paid to say that either, folks. Anyway, we've got some lightning on mainland U.S. Let me show you how to use it. Hattiesburg, there's thunder rolling in. And if you see those expanding circles, next time you hear thunder, zoom in on your location at lightningmaps.org. You'll be able to forecast thunder, freak out the natives, freak out your foes, and impress your friends. U.S. Doppler radar map showing us some snow in Pennsylvania. Yes! I am stoked about it because, frankly, I don't give a damn how cold or hot the planet is. I like the extremes. So I'm perfectly equipped to ride my bike at 10 degrees Fahrenheit below zero, as well as at 100 degrees with an 80% humidity. Check it out. Snow coming down in Pennsylvania. Sadly, I think it's going to warm up and turn to a wintry mix, and I'm probably not seeing any at my location. And if you're wondering where I'm located, it's deep, deep in the bowels of Lake Vostok, underneath the ice sheets of Antarctica. Just kidding, folks. I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And here's the U.S. water vapor map. And we've got a bunch of moisture there centered on the Louisiana-Mississippi border region. And I'm just going to look at this convergence here over central Texas, as this is my contribution to your weather pornography viewing. Check it out. And what we've got here is we've got two different air masses. You've got some moisture air over the top of this, and that's why you're getting those swirly effects there, because there's an upper level low that's pressing over the top of that dry air, creating what we call a temperature inversion. And that creates things like wind shear, and that's all I'm saying about it, because I don't want to get into the weeds. But what I do want to do is thank the Smash team for tuning into the Smash stream. And while we did stream it live, most of our viewers do view it in syndication, whether it's on YouTube or if it's on BitChute. Those are the two main sources, youtube.com/smashomash and bitchute.com/smashomash. Also check out smashomash.org. There's all kinds of extra stuff to do. Also later today, we're planning on doing another episode of the Diamond Anvil, episode 3. The rest of the title to be announced. Let's talk about number 3 in our SMASHO mission. It's to connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach. Now, we're lucky if we can add to our reach because of things like shadow bans and throttling on things like YouTube. However, we're taking it all with a truckload of salt. And we're taking the whole thing in stride. I know we've created a ton of work for us by starting to study the sun in such depth at solar minimum. It's all by design. It's part of the 5-year plan. And we won't divulge any more information about the 5-year plan. So please support us, whether it's on PayPal, because some people don't like Patreon. All Patreon and Subscribestar posts are free throughout the month of April. So, starting May 1st, it's going to be back to tiers. And we've been putting out additional material all through the month of April because I like to give. So all of our Patreon and Subscribestar posts are entirely free through the month of April. There are no tiers for the month of April. So don't take that as a cue to stop patronizing us. Take that as a reason to subscribe to the channels, to the patreon.com/smAshomash and to subscribestar.com/smAshomash, as those are real sources of funding for our content so far. Now, one thing to understand is that some of our posts are always public anyway on both Patreon and Subscribestar. So even if you're not willing to drop us $1 a month on our intro tier on Patreon, subscribe anyway, because we still put out public posts, especially when it's very important, time-sensitive stuff. So I don't know what else to tell you besides that. That's the best I can do, folks. Next, we're going to look at the intensitygram and show you no visible ombre. So that active region is right here. And you can see there are no dark spots on there, no ombre present. Next, we're going to look at the magnetic fields. And there's the latest image in ultra-high res from the SDO. And it's not looking like a sunspot yet, but it's something to check out throughout the rest of the day. Let's take one more final look at the local yellow dwarf here before we close things out. It's 94 angstroms. It takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2, a characteristic only present in the 94 and 131 angstroms spectra. So that's 48 hours there. We're going to zoom in a little bit here. Just a little bit. There we go. So you can see that active region as well as the south solar polar region. And you can even see the timestamps. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, folks. Remember, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. Stare at the sun. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back, and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins. And may that entropy be busted and underneath your boot.